So love intentionally moves toward others, not away from them. It requires us to see the other person who is scary or strange to us as parts of us we do not yet know. Love refuses to dismiss people as pure evil or irredeemable. And this is sometimes the hardest with those who are closest to us. Will Willimon tells the story about a man he knew who at the time was a young professor. And he was on a plane in the late 60s and found himself sitting next to none other than the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So he introduced himself to Dr. King, and as the journey progressed, he revealed to Dr. King that he too was active in the civil rights struggle on his campus. Because of his work in the racial struggle, he said he had become alienated from his father. He told Dr. King how his father could not understand him and how they had grown apart. "What can I do," he asked Dr. King, "to raise the consciousness of my father, to make my father see that he is a racist and that all his pious talk about loving black people is just a lie?" Dr. King put his hand on the man's hand and said, "Your father is doing the best he can. He has not had many of your opportunities which your father provided for you. As a Christian, you must be patient with him and love him." Love is patient. We are living in impatient times. Times that feel as if our divisions are permanent. Many worry our country is headed toward another civil war. We are so polarized, we are having a hard time finding the humanity in people we disagree with. Contrary to Paul's counsel, we are often found to be insisting on our own way. We are irritable, resentful. And where is that getting us? Whether from left, right, or center, there's little evidence of love. We must learn to turn toward one another instead of away from one another. And that requires more than simply internal work of attitude adjustment. It requires behavior modification. That means that we actually have to move beyond what we feel like we want to do what we must do. And that requires us to get out of our comfort zones and work to bring people together. Love, if you didn't notice the way Paul puts it, is a verb. It acts. When the British Muslim man entered Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville a few weeks ago, taking hostages with a gun he purchased from a convicted felon, his hatred for Jews was apparent. But our friend, Imam Omar Solomon, jumped in his car right away and drove to Colleyville in order to see if he could help negotiate the situation. He joined other rabbis there and Christian ministers too, including my admired Baptist colleague from Keller, Pastor Bob Roberts. They prayed together and tried to bring a peaceful end to the dispute. Happily, of course, the hostages were able to escape, but it didn't end peaceably. The standoff ended with the loss of the hostage taker's life. In the end, the sacrificial acts of many during that time resulted in a renewed sense that it just may be possible for Muslims, Jews, and Christians to live together in our culture if we were to practice the kind of love that believes all things and hopes all things.